Go back. Black people anonymously answer 7 burning questions. Let's take a look at what this is about. Mask off. Oh, this is a new thing called mask off. Mask off is a social experiment. It's exploring authenticity and anonymity. The views expressed in this video are the opinions and experiences of the cast members, whose names have been changed for their privacy. Mask on. Fuck it, mask on. I want to do this. Okay. They're the new recruitment of the Jabberwockies.
In an age of call-outs, culture wars, and perfect facades, people can be afraid to express how they really feel. So we brought together 7 strangers, protected their identities, and asked them all 7 burning audience questions. What will be revealed when we take the mask off?
We're gonna know you struggling with what? Let's hear about it.
If your answer is yes, you'll turn your light on.
Okay.
The police.
Can I join? Can I join? I'll turn my light on.
I know that there are quote-unquote good cops, but if you are working in an entire force with individuals who are essentially mostly racist,
Coming straight from down the ground.
The history of it with being the sheriffs of slaves and
I love that song.
tracking down slaves using dogs or whatever they're using, it's just wearing that badge. It's just, you're never really here for us.
Listen, I don't know if y'all know this. I don't know if y'all know this, but here's a little piece of history for you. The police was created and intended to be there to capture runaway slaves. That's literally what the police was created for back in the day. You don't need a history lesson? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. That's what the police was for, and it's corrupt. So there you go.
For that reason. So the only reason why I can't fully say that.
No, we don't. Mars, this is my house. This is my street.
A cousin who is a police officer.
Hi, baby Graham. How you doing?
And all of the other
How's everything going? How's the baby?
The racist and pretty much mentality to it. Yeah, no, it's them for sure.
All right, we're gonna have everyone join the conversation.
I don't really feel anything towards this statement because I haven't had any
Drew.
encounters with police like ever.
Why do you have to have a personal experience? Why can't you just look at the damage has been done?
It's different because I feel like I feel the weight of my ancestors in certain situations in other areas of my life than I do with the police.
Okay, this is not me taking away from the black community in general because police are always targeting us, but I find it interesting that only the black men had agreed with that.
I'm like on the fence with it because I know that there are black cops out there that are truly trying to protect and serve, and I really don't know what I would do if we completely destroyed the police system. I would be scared because it's like, okay, well, I don't believe that is the solution, but yes, black men have that main encounter with the police, and sometimes it's annoying because it's like, okay, is this the only cause that y'all care about, is police brutality? But yeah, it's halfway with me.
I think feelings do become more intense though once you have an experience.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. No, definitely.
And so like, you know, seeing situations where my dad got pulled over, got questioned, got harassed for no reason, then to experience my situation down in Texas, and I had bought guns for the first time, registered them, followed everything to the T, and then still get pressed up against the side of my car like I did something wrong when I did it the exact way that y'all said I had to do it. That experience right there, my dad's situation started it, and then my situation is what finalized it.
Are Asians racist towards you?
Oh, they going into the deep shit. They going to some deep shit.
I have a neighbor who is very privileged. She's married to a white man. She's Asian, and I feel like that comes a lot nowadays in America. I feel like Asian women are trying to be the white woman of America, and they're not realizing that they're also an marginalized community just as we are.
Especially Asians that are born into American
Have a good one. I love you. It was wonderful meeting you, by the way.
And they don't have any.
Thank you for stopping by.
For other minorities.
I have had negative interactions with like Asian people or like other people because I'm black and because colorism is a thing. but I've also had.
Noir, I better see more. I better see more noir content on Instagram. 'Cause I freaking love your cosplay.
I know it happens, of course, but me personally, I have not experienced racism from the Asian community. I do totally agree with the idea of colorism because it does seem like the darker you are, the quote uglier you are in any ethnicity, which does suck.
I think the American influence is big, and that's on anybody that comes, no matter where you come from, what background. When you get to America, you spend a couple years here, you start to see how things are done, whether they're right or wrong. You see how things are done, how black people are treated, how white people are treated. So a little bit.
Well, on
after I left
TikTok,
the
I
military,
bet.
I spent a couple years in Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia.
Yeah, same. I personally, I haven't had any bad experience with anyone from the Asian community, like, at all. I've never experienced racism or any kind of thing from. I've seen some situations happen, but it wasn't really to the extent where it involved like the police or anything. But it didn't involve me, so.
And South Korea, these places were places where I was accepted more so than back home. It was shocking to me to not be followed around in stores in South Korea. It was shocking to me to not be treated or even looked at the same way I would be walking down the street in certain places here.
I have dated outside my race.
Oh, I have. I forgot my light, but I'm participating in this conversation. I have.
East Asian man, I've dated Hispanic men. It's different. You know, like, you're never going to find somebody outside of your race that's going to 100% understand you.
She lying?
Understand
Okay,
your
Mars.
family, why you do things the way that you do. When I'm dating them, I know it's.
You said how I went to Japan. I was welcomed with open arms, but went to Jamaica and got looked at as an outsider. Wow, really? Really? I heard that in certain parts of like Jamaica, like colorism is a big thing, especially like with women, which is why like skin bleaching has been like a crazy thing over there, and in some parts of Africa as well. But I heard a lot of like the outsiderness comes from us being American, and us being ignorant to their culture. But yeah, that's interesting. I've always wanted to go to Japan. I've always wanted to go to Japan, and I still stand on that's like one of my top places to go to is Tokyo, or Hong Kong. But I really do want to go to Japan. It says, yeah, if you go back home from where you're from, they look at you crazy, like you're not Jamaican because you don't live there, or you abandon them type shit. And it's like, that's crazy because like, even though we're not, this is a different kind of conversation to have, but we are not from there. Our ancestors are, but we are a whole new race of people, and it was man-made because we're in America. It's not our fault, but like, a lot of them say, well, you can choose to come back home. And it's like, well, we don't really know. We don't really know you guys directly. It's not like we don't want to come over there, but it's like we weren't born there. We have ancestry there, but you can't say that we removed ourselves because we were never there. You said when I was in Japan, I sat in people's homes and ate food with them, and it was genuine love. Yeah. I do want to go to Japan. You said the girls are going to Japan? Absolutely. 100%. I really do want to go to Japan. It's wild how their views on us is that we're basically whitewashed in a sense. We're not the same culture. Like Black Americans and African culture is absolutely different. It's very much different. We borrow from the same thing, but it's like we're actually very, very different.
It's going to be different, and I feel that's kind of like why I'm entertaining the fact of even doing that.
I don't think that I would necessarily.
Really have to be on my
white
toes.
person. I just
Wow.
feel like there's a disconnect, but as long
Yeah, I had a friend said that she went to Jamaica and it was really dangerous. Like, it was super dangerous, especially for her as a woman, as a dark woman too, because they very much see that like women with lighter complexions are more desirable or whatever. But like it was really dangerous for her. And like she had a cab that she had called there, and her cab abandoned her, like in like a really bad neighborhood. So yeah, that's really interesting to hear. It's not a nice place if you step off the resort. Yeah, it's beautiful but dangerous at the same time. Wow. Yeah, I've wanted to go to Jamaica, but yeah, I've heard other people tell me to be like cautious of going there.
As long as like they're willing to like have those
At the same
conversations
time, it's
with
like
me and
anywhere.
understand like my blackness, I want to have those conversations with them, and I don't mind what their race is.
I think for me, it's just all about my comfort level with you and how much I can relate. And like he said, I think a white woman would be like at the bottom of the totem pole just because we don't have that much to connect on. But I'm not opposed to it. I would just kind of rather work with something that I know there's a lot of compatibility there.
I'm not opposed to dating outside my race, but in terms of marriage, I would love to marry a black man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Think about our ancestors. Like, they're probably turning in our grave. Their grave. Like, they're like, what are you doing? Like, we've done so much, and you want to be with this white person or this non-black person?
I've never dated outside of my race, but maybe I should because a lot of black men tend to go to non-black
Because
women.
they can control them.
Yes,
They
and
feel they can
Because
because
they're easier.
and because they have European features, softer hair. They
Exotic.
like the Kim Kardashian looking woman.
Exotic.
You know, you want the black woman aesthetic, but you need the European features. So maybe I should date outside of my race, but I personally like to.
But at the same time, that's not effective. That's dating out of anger, or that's exploring other people because you feel shut out by your own race. And I don't think that's the way to approach it. Like, fine, date whoever you want. I personally do not believe that that's the way to approach dating somebody, because it's not their fault that some guys in your own like ethnicity aren't looking for you. It's not another ethnicity's fault per se, but yeah, I don't think that's the way to go about dating somebody outside of your race, because you're upset or irritated with this situation, because people gonna date who they want regardless. So
He said, I want to build with the black man. I want to have black children. That's what I want to do. But with this generation of black men, I don't know if it's possible.
Me having sex with a white man is just, it's the master aspect. It's the buck breaking history. If you know what buck breaking is, it's all of that combined. And then the idea of, most times, even in heterosexual relationships, it's usually a fetish for the individual.
Right,
to
Drew,
be with
right.
you. It's either because you have a nice body, or your skin is so dark and lovely, or because you have, that tool that they want, if you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, in general, it's always something on your body that they want. And if it's genuinely true love, that can happen. But for the most part, I just think interracial dating is disgusting.
I've felt oppressed by my own community.
damn, these some loaded questions for real.
I actually sometimes feel very uncomfortable in spaces full of black people. If you're not desirable as a black woman, if you're not desirable to men, then you tend to get overlooked. I have to work my ass off for things that I want. Black men, cis hetero black men specifically, they oppress all of us. And it sucks because I want to be with a black man, but it's like I have to try to appeal to my oppressor.
I'm gay, and I'm also black. So within the black community, I feel like, again, when we go out to these protests, when we go out to these clubs or parties, and I'm in heterosexual spaces, I feel like, he's black, but like he's gay, so we can't really mess with him. Like, he can't really be in our space. And it's like, how is
Hi,
this your space
Jessica.
that you claim over a sexuality and a sexual preference, essentially, rather than us being the same race?
Yeah, of course. Like you were saying, like if you're in the LGBTQ community, it's intersectionality. So, people are more cool with me if I'm passing and they see me as like a cis black guy versus if they know I'm trans.
In terms of my experience, I feel like maybe black people were gatekeeping opportunities, or like
You say you gotta host a little convo like this with streamers. I think it would be dope. I think it would be a very loaded conversation, but I think it would be dope. With this question in particular, I feel like not to invalidate their personal experiences, but as far as that, because usually me personally, I've never felt uncomfortable in a space full of black people. unless I'm at church. I honestly think that, and it's not just really religion that has anything to do with it, but religion has a lot to do with it. But I think there's just a lot of unlearning that our community needs to do. There's a lot of unlearning that needs to happen. But yeah, I just feel as though, me personally, I really don't have any bad experiences with being in a mass area full of black people. Like, I feel my most comfortable in a space full of black people. But at the same time, like I said, there is a lot of different experiences. Like, there are black people that are gay, black people that are disabled, and they don't feel seen or heard because that's not what our community focuses on. So I think there's a lot of education that needs to happen and a lot of unlearning that needs to happen.
Trying to be super stingy or trying to be the token black person and not really, they kind of like bully other black people to make them be like, you don't deserve to be in my space. Like, this is my zone. This is the area that I'm working in. And it's kind of like they're trying to keep other black people from being successful. Like, I feel like I've seen that a lot. And I feel like that's happened to me before too.
When I was living in Mississippi, I was around predominantly black people. I didn't feel any different. But now that I'm back here in California and I'm around, other races, like, well, I can see why this could be considered colorist, or I can see how in this situation maybe I'm feeling, like I'm not as worthy as these other people. But I just couldn't use the word oppressed really to describe how my experiences have went.
Have you ever wished you weren't black?
Oh, no, absolutely not. There's never been a day. Never been a day. Not even when I see, like, shit, like, brutality happen on the news. Like, there is no agenda. There is no propaganda. There is no thing in the world. Even when I was going through my little emo phase in high school and wishing that my hair was straight, there's not a point in time where I was not grateful that I was black. Because when I tell you, listen, our culture's strong. Every day I wake up and I'm like, thank God. I'm like, yes. Because like I think about it. I'm like, imagine having to like pretend that you are, or imagine having to like wish that you were, or like not understand what's going on. Because like the way that black people universally, even though a lot of us come from different states, different backgrounds, seeing different stuff, we all share like 9 times out of 10, black people just all share like a mentality. We all share something together. So I just wish my hair was straight, but never further than that. I never wish my skin was any lighter, because my parents did a good job in making sure that I knew about and loved how dark my skin is. Like, I'm in love with it. I learned that early on, is to be in love with the way that I look, like with all of my features. But you said there may be features that I don't like about myself, but I'm still, and that's just like with you personally, but not because that you're black. But being black, yes, African American vernacular come into. I love being able to talk to my people and nobody be understanding what we talking about. Like, imagine having to like pretend you know what a word means, or like hearing a word and trying to use it your way and it just don't work, because it's just like, no, you didn't come up with that word, baby. You don't know what that means. I love us so much. Like, every day I wake up and I'm just like, thank God I'm like, fuck yes. I'd be so damn happy. I'd be like, yes. Yes. It's like I hit the jackpot or something. It's just a riveting feeling. Damn, Jasmine, what happened?
I want to say, record straight, I love myself now. Like, I love being a black woman. But, like, for so long,
ain't no but,
because of also family members feeding into the whole idea of, like, oh, you're so pretty because you're lighter.
Okay, now, colorism is different within the own community. I still wouldn't ever change my mind about wanting to be black. Even in the next life, I gotta be black. I do understand when people grow up and their own family is very like judgmental of them. I've seen it happen. I've seen kids be favorited by their parents or be favorited by certain family members because their skin is lighter. We're all black, but I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. Hair texture differences, feature differences. It all goes back to the mentality of wanting European features. With kids being mixed and stuff like that. There comes a lot of trauma that happens with kids who are dark-skinned, kinky-haired kids that just don't feel like they're as close to their culture as they want to be because they've been rejected by their own family. And that will always be very sad, especially growing up, like starting off as a kid and hearing those things young. Is that their skin is too dark, and it's not even coming from outside races, it's coming from your own race, and that can be very traumatizing. So I completely understand. I completely get it. Me personally, not a day goes by, not a single day goes by where I do not wish that I was black. Like, I'm too happy to be here. I'd be cutting up.
For so long as a child, I associated being black as being something that was a bad thing, because I saw how people that were darker than me were treated, and I was just like, oh, I don't want to be this anymore. But I mean, with a lot of love and compassion and hardcore teaching, I was like, being black is honestly the best thing ever.
We lit.
Right, Mark? Right, we lit.
I just feel like
we too lit.
And I get where that comes from. That's a part of colorism. And that happens a lot in our community. And I just feel like if we all just accepted our blackness more, we would just be great.
Like, when I was younger, I moved to like a town that was like
black,
like white and Hispanic. I never felt like specifically like, oh, I wish I wasn't black, but I did like look at other people and say, I wish I had hair like them. I wish I looked more like them.
Like, I love being the race that I am, but having 4C hair and having darker knuckles, darker kneecaps, especially in elementary school and middle school, getting
kids
was
got
really hard.
Man, let me tell you, kids are brutal. Kids are brutal. Growing up, like I said, I never wished that I was anything but black. But growing up, kids made fun of you. Even kids that look like you. Like, I used to get it from boys that were darker than me. And they like to blame it, oh, it's because he liked you. He got a crush on you. No, I remember this one kid specifically hated me. And we were the exact same skin color. The both of us. This boy was the exact same skin color. Had a crush on one of the Hispanic girls. But, like, I'm just like, now look at you and look at me. He was like, but it's different because I'm a boy. And I'm like, okay. He was like, girls not supposed to be that dark. And I was like, even though it didn't faze me because I didn't give a shit because this kid was an idiot. But it was just weird. In my mind, it wasn't an insult. It was like, I feel bad for you because it's just like, damn, like, me and your mother are the same skin. The three of us, we are all the same skin color. You need to unlearn the hatred that is in your heart for your own self. You said Nicole calls me a sunflower sucker. Okay, that was between you and I. That was very private. That was a very private moment that you and I shared, and you were not supposed to tell the world. I called you way worse. I called you way worse than that, okay?
Now
don't worry, he doesn't call me anything.
this age, I'm learning to accept all parts of me, but I still battle with it like every day.
There were times where I maybe wish that I wasn't Black American.
What? I can say it. I'm black. I can say it. Yeah, I'm black. My chicken fried rice. What did I? Oh, you said I'm back, not I'm black. I'll be black.
Maybe I wish I was
I'll be quiet.
an African woman.
Expose her? What do you mean expose her? Everything that I said came from me being black. I call you Bubs, and I get called. Don't say that. Don't type that again. And yes, I can call you that.
Because I feel like Black Americans, like, we kind of were disconnected from our African roots and our heritage.
Cotton chomper.
And that part kind of hurts because it's like we don't really have much to call our own besides like Ebonics or AAVE.
I don't be bullying y'all. Y'all bully me.
Ultimately set the tone for
How many times have y'all yelled at me in this one specific stream? How many times have y'all yelled at me? How many times have y'all used the yell sound alert? How many times? Right. 0 times. Liars. And you guys lie. Look at Mars using it now. And I caught you this time. I caught you.
I would raise my kids.
Y'all are bullies. Got called the spirit tucker by my aunt. What the?
Haven't had an experience with whether sexual abuse or some type of violence in your home, you are lucky in the Black community because it happens.
Wait, go back.
Give them my
I would raise my kids differently than my parents raised me. Yes. Even though my parents raised me with a lot of love, there's a lot of craziness that went on in my household. That I do not want to teach my kids because it caused me to grow with a lot of frustration and anger towards my own parents. So yes, I would 100% raise my kids differently than how my parents raised me. I would instill some of the same morals. So I'm the first child, so yes, I'm the second child. Yeah, I'm the second child by both my parents, and I really want my kids to have the same morals that I was brought up with, but I want to nurture them in a different way than my parents did with me. My parents were not very affectionate people. I'm a person. I'm very physically affectionate. I love to hug my family. I like to hug them. I love to touch on them, like play with them. I'm a very affectionate person, and growing up in a household where that didn't happen, it made me afraid to be affectionate. I get scared to hug my grandmother. Not that she wouldn't hug me back, but I wouldn't be the one to initiate it. Like, she would have to hug me first. Even still, I love her to this day. Like, I love her. We never have any issues. But as far as like hugging, that was very weird in our household. We only said I love you. Like, we didn't say I love you regularly, but it was like you knew. But like me as a child, you want to hear it. You want to be held. You want to be cuddled. You want to be talked to. So I think I would raise my kids to be more affectionate people, because it caused a lot of like weirdness to me. I had to unlearn it, especially like in relationships. Like, I was scared that I was going to be that person in a relationship that didn't like to be touched or didn't want to hug or kiss or anything, because I just didn't get that kind of affection growing up. But I would definitely raise my kids to be more affectionate. I want to hug them and kiss them and tell them so they can verbally hear that I love them, and not just them saying in the household. Like, I don't want them to just know that I love them. Like, you know that I love you. I don't have to say it. I never want to be in a household like that. That's something that I would never do. And I've seen it be very common in Black households that kind of affection is not given to enough of our children. And it's very sad because it's seen as too soft or seen as weak and unacceptable, especially with our Black boys. Like with the boys, it's always, you got to be hard. You can't show any emotion. You can't cry. You can't complain about anything. It's like no, it's okay to have these emotions. These are a part of having emotions. You can't just only feed into the positive and headstrong emotions. You have to feed into those sensitive ones. So I definitely want my kids to know that it's okay to feel every emotion that they need to feel. Otherwise, that's going to cause a lot of tension and a lot of frustration in them when they try to interact with other people as adults. It creates a very toxic household. So, absolutely. I would absolutely raise my kids differently than how my parents raised me. Yeah, not saying that they raised me in a bad way, but I just want them to be more tapped into their emotions and tapped into their hearts, which I believe more kids should be tapped into those kinds of things. So, yes.
parents raised me.
If you haven't had an experience with whether sexual abuse or some type of violence in your home, you are lucky.
Right,
in the Black
right.
community, because it happens to so many of us. And I feel like with me,
Oh, I love you
experiencing
guys.
growing up,
I really
would
love y'all.
never beat my child. I don't want to have to feel like beating my child is a resource or
That's another thing that I was talking to my grandmother about. I told her, I said, I'm not gonna like beat my kids, and she was like, what? She's like, the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. And I'm like, you know, I don't be reading that anyway. Like, listen, no, if you know how to parent, you don't even have to get to that point. You don't even have to get to that point. It does not have to get to that point. No, I can't ever see myself like physically hitting my child to instill discipline. Absolutely not. That's not the way I can go about. I'm a very sensitive person. So me even like disciplining my dog and yelling at him to stop doing something is hard for me. I don't like raising my voice. I do not want to live in a household where we have to yell at each other or fight or do any of that. So not, and a lot of people like to say that that's sensitive parenting. That's such vanilla parenting. And it's just like, duh, you do not have to parent in a harsh manner. Like, you really don't. You really don't. Because I guarantee you, beating your kids is not, it doesn't, exactly. You're supposed to be guiding, not traumatizing. You're supposed to be teaching. You're not supposed to be taking your anger and your frustration out on your kids, because they're people. They're young people that are learning how to deal with emotions and certain things. They're sponges. They're taking in everything that you do. So, what's up, Vintage? Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. But yeah, I like to talk, and it's very effective because it's worked with my nieces and my nephews. Granted, I'm not their parents, so I'm not disciplining them every day. But for instance, when I'm hanging out with my nephew and my nieces, and they do something that I don't think is acceptable, like throwing their cups around or pushing each other, there is not an instance where I've had to yell at them to get them to stop. There's not been an instance where I've had to say, hey, like, there's not an instance where I've had to hit them or push them to get my point across. There's very effective ways in getting kids to learn what's right and wrong. And yes, it's going to be frustrating sometimes. It's going to be very frustrating. You're dealing with someone who doesn't know how to do things that you do. So, but that's the point of being a parent. You're opting to be a teacher, to be a guide. So you can only do the best that you can do. And that's why I always say it's a village mentality. It takes a village to raise a child. It's not just about the parents, about the mom and dad. It's the neighbors. It's the aunt, the uncles, the grandma. It's the family friends. All those people go into raising a child. And I'm very, very heavy on that kind of mentality. While the mother and the father have an initial job to do, so does the people around you. So I keep that in mind.
Source of like them respecting me. I want them to know about mental health and take their mental health serious.
Your boss told you to stay late. Tell your boss. I said personally,
I love that you
let you
mentioned
go the
specifically
fuck
about
home.
mental health, because it's something you can't talk about in our community sometimes. It's like, well, what's wrong with you? Like, are you crazy? I'm gonna whoop your tail. Like, you shouldn't be acting
That part.
You have no reason to be depressed. I don't want to reciprocate that onto my children, and I don't want them to feel like if they're feeling depressed, if they're feeling overwhelmed, I don't want them to think they can't come to me and talk about it. My parents, they didn't have that opportunity to communicate with their parents because they were raised in a completely different generation. So now, like, I see my mom was, raising me this way because that's what she's used to, but I'm going to cut it off with my line.
I'm cutting that shit off.
Kids are probably going to be like, yeah, I ain't doing that. When I have my kids, like, each generation gets wiser and they learn something else or have resources to something else. So
I think my generation is very smart and very privy and very open to their emotions, which has me not excited per se, but like it gives me more faith for this generation's children. Because a lot of our generation, we are the age of technology, so we've been able to talk to people on a regular basis in a mass way that we wouldn't normally do. Like, I can talk to someone that lives in fucking California or Washington or New York every day. So we're constantly sharing ideas and experiences, and it's given us a way to learn about how we were treated growing up and learn that, we need to change something here. Which it gives me a little more faith in the coming generations, because I feel like they will be more tapped into their emotions, and it won't be just like everyone just breaking each other down all the time.
I just want to always highlight the good things that my parents did.
And we're not having kids as fast as they are. They like our parents and our grandparents, they were having kids at like 20, like 25, 20. Our generation has been waiting. Like I've seen some of my friends have kids, but like a lot of us are not having them as early as our parents were. We are experiencing more life. Or trying to, because this fucking pandemic's not really helping us out. But I feel like we are trying to live more life instead of settle down so fast and have kids.
Acknowledge them and address the bad things with them, but now I can forgive and let it go and just highlight what they did do right and kind of mix that with my own.
I can't be honest about who I am.
With who? Because baby. Every day, I'm me.
Being black, like if I'm in a white space, I'm like constantly like, how am I coming off? But a lot of times for me, it's like, you know, in terms of being trans, also like, how am I walking? How am I talking? How am I being received? Do these people, are they speaking at me or looking at me like they're comfortable with me? And it's just pretty.
You were her
challenging
second?
sometimes
Oh,
when I'm
wow.
around other people, and I'm constantly checking myself.
Since we're in the age of like cancel culture, it's just really easy. I feel like if even if you want to be honest, it's like sometimes you can because you have like a fear of getting canceled or a fear of
My mom
people,
had
like lashing out.
me when
on
she
you,
was
and I feel
25.
like it's very-
Same. My mom had me when she was 25. I'm 25, and I cannot imagine myself with a child right now. I said, when I was younger, I used to say, I'm going to have a kid by 24, 25. I am 25, and I'm looking back, I'm like, girl, hell no. My mom, but the thing was, you know, my mom was married. She had been with my dad for like 3 years. She had a house. It was much easier to like get a house and a car. She had 2 cars. They weren't in a recession, so she felt comfortable with having a kid at 25. I do not have my shit together at all. Like I have not a lick of my shit together at age 25. So absolutely not. Keep that away from me for at least another maybe 10 years. Let me get my shit together first, and then you'll be seeing a baby Nicole around here somewhere. You said, for me, it's not about being honest with myself. I'm still finding myself and trying to understand what exactly. I think more people need to understand that learning about ourselves is a constant thing. We're gonna learn about ourselves until the day we die. So the rush to know who you are completely is so dangerous because it's just like you're trying to force yourself to find out what you like when there's all of life around you and you have no idea what you're going to end up liking in the next year or so. You have no idea like who you're going to meet, how those situations are going to change you or impact you. You are not going to fully know yourself until you die. Like you're constantly learning about yourself. So the rush to find yourself is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous tactic. Take your time. There's no rush. There's nobody you need to be answering to. There's nobody you need to report back to about yourself. You are you, and you're going to have to find that out whenever you find it out.
It's like that. I can't be completely honest in terms of like my views on certain things just because of like how people are going to react.
It takes a lot for a person to be themselves and fully own their identity, no matter who you are or what you are. So living in that, I've learned to own that, and I'm always blunt. I'm always me. What you see is what you get. If you got a problem, you can leave.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
It's exhausting to try to defend yourself all the time about who you are, but at the end of the day, I sleep better at night knowing that I'm just me.
I really like this episode. Wow. I didn't realize Jubilee was getting it so deep. I mean, I've known they've always had like deep conversations and sit down to deep topics, but this was wow. I like it. I liked it. I really did enjoy